There is no single unified list of top books that all humans need to read to live a suddenly more fulfilled life. Everyone is going through their own experiences, has unique likes and dislikes, and a top list will probably vary quite a bit from person to person. I want to share with you 8 nonfiction books that I've read recently as part of my reading challenge this year that are currently on my version of this top list, and well, maybe they will have as much impact on you as they did on me. I divided these 8 books into 4 categories because there can never be too much organization, and let's start with the first one. And the first 2 books I'm recommending are written by Malcolm Gladwell, and they are Outliers and Talking to Strangers. I've discovered Gladwell's work at the beginning of this year and read quite a bit, but these 2 are my absolute favorites. And Gladwell's books, in a way, remind me of puzzles. His writing is so engaging, and it feels as if you're working with him to try and figure out and put together the final picture. Each book is based on a single hypothesis that he tries to understand, test, and prove that challenges the structure of how the world operates. And first, let's talk about Outliers. Outliers breaks down different success stories and explains that very often they are not random, but usually happen because of a predictable and powerful set of different circumstances and opportunities. The examples or the cases that Gladwell looks into within the book are Beatles, Bill Gates, Mozart, Bill Joy, Steve Jobs, Rockefeller, and their stories are generally told twice. The first time in a way that confirms all prejudices about self-made men, and then again in a way that breaks down success to show all the underlying patterns, culture, family, generation, year of birth, to point out the fact that these people became who they are, not only due to their intrinsic qualities, but also because of circumstances that just happened and were completely outside of their control. For example, if you're a hockey player, it turns out that your month of birth pretty much determines whether you can make it as an NHL player. And although success depends on a series of cultural and other factors beyond our control, we do have the power of putting 10,000 hours of work and practice to become really good at what we want to succeed in. And the next book is Talking to Strangers, which is very similar in its structure to Outliers, but this one focuses on the thought that we pretty much always misread and make assumptions about people, make incorrect assumptions about people we don't know, and why and how we do that, basically. And although Gladwell writes about a few different ideas and theories, my favorite was the default truth. Basically, that we are wired to trust other people at a biological level, and we stop believing them only at the point when our brain can no longer explain their actions or make up any excuses for their behavior. That we always start by trusting and believing another person and then go backwards rather than building up our trust with time. And these 2 books definitely challenge and make you notice and question your thinking patterns in the world and structure of a lot of different systems. The next 2 books give some sort of guideline of how you can form and structure your life as well as approach goal setting, starting with The Power of Habit. In The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg explains how habits are formed and introduces a habit loop, and understanding its components can potentially help you change bad habits or develop good ones. It always starts with a cue or a trigger which signals the brain to automatically determine which habit or behavioral pattern to use in order to receive some kind of reward that the brain is already accustomed to. What I loved specifically about this book were the examples of how advertising campaigns created new habits using this loop for an entire population. Like Pepsodent was the first successful toothpaste product that people started to use consistently in the US in 1900s because advertising managed to create a new habit around it and integrate it into a daily routine of everyone, basically. And now, after reading this book, every time I see an ad, I try to decipher it and see if there is a habit loop at the base of it. And the second book is The Essentialism by McKeown, which was one of my comfort reads this year. It is a very simple guidebook on how and what to prioritize in work and life to not feel overwhelmed and burnt out, which happens to me personally quite a lot. And one of my favorite quotes from this book was, "Whatever decision or challenge or crossroads you face in your life, simply ask yourself what is essential and eliminate everything else." It's a good minimalistic approach to, or essentialist approach, shall I say, to all of the life decisions and all of the life choices that you might be challenged with. And it helped me understand how to stay a bit more grounded and remove a lot of stress factors from my work life and from just day to day. And the first book in this category is one of those cases when you actually shouldn't judge the book by its cover, and it is Attached. I have actually reread it for the second time this year and have been recommending it to a lot of my friends. Basically, this book talks about the research behind our behavior in relationships and how all of their findings point down that no matter how old are you or where you're from, you have one of three attachment styles when it comes down to romantic relationships. You're either avoidant, secure, or anxious. Anxious people tend to be preoccupied with their relationship and worry about their partner's ability to love them back. Avoidant people equate intimacy with loss of independence, and secure people feel comfortable being close and with someone. It is definitely a very interesting guidebook that does a great job of explaining, while backing up all of the explanations with scientific research, our behavior when it comes to relationships and how we can navigate and understand our attachment style and typical thinking patterns that come with it. And the second book of this category would be Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. I became very, very interested in Brené Brown's research around vulnerability and shame after watching her Netflix episode and TED Talk, and I decided to pick up this one at the beginning of this year, and I also read Dare to Lead after it. This particular book does a great job advising on how to live wholeheartedly and explains the whole concept of living wholeheartedly in general. Helps a lot with self-acceptance and self-esteem and how to battle all of the doubts that you might have. One of the beautiful lessons that I personally took away from it is how you can always connect with other people based on emotions. As we all know what anger, joy, frustration, love feel like, and we can really connect with each other and show empathy based on emotions rather than trying to relate to specific experiences that somebody might be going through. I love learning most from the stories of people and their journeys and why people do what they do and what is the source of their passion. That's why the final category of today is going to be personal success stories. Starting with the two books by Howard Schultz, Pour Your Heart Into It and Onward, where he shares the story of how Starbucks grew from just love of coffee and desire to bring Italian coffee drinking culture to America with a lot of hard work and passion. These books have been some of the most inspirational ones that I've read this year, and it's written partly as a memoir, partly as a guidebook, and covers Starbucks' whole journey from humble beginnings as a small Seattle coffee retailer store to a world leader that they are today, and how the company faced multiple pitfalls and market issues, financial problems, and overcame them all. I absolutely loved how you can still feel passion and dedication on every single page of this book, and it shows what it actually takes to build something significant from just one idea of one man. And the last book, well, for me personally, was a bit of a heavy lifting, but it is The Power Broker by Robert Caro. Of course, Power Broker is many things. Among them, it is a biography about Robert Moses, who was one of the most influential people in New York City in 20th century. Robert Moses came to hold 12 government titles in New York simultaneously. He built hundreds of miles of parkways and expressways, and he opened hundreds of parks and playgrounds, built some of the biggest bridges. In the process of doing all that, he displaced hundreds of thousands of people and completely transformed New York to what we know of it today. So if you think about the New York landscape today, you are thinking about Robert Moses, New York. And this would conclude a list of nonfiction books that I wanted to share with you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any book recommendations, please let me know, because I'm always looking for the next read, and most likely I will do another reading challenge next year as well. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye!